We're today's News Talk, the world today.
And welcome back to the world today. Nice to have your company too, by the way. It's a Thursday, almost the weekend. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, including Germany, and also I just want to have a little comment about the alt media in the UK, probably in particular UK column, just to give you my observations. And very brief observations too, because it's none of my business what they do with what they're doing. But something is very rotten in the state of Germany. Our friend Mats Nielsen posted recently on X that German state media authorities, which were founded to distribute broadcasting licenses, will soon be empowered to decide on the value of news. Think about it. They're going to tell you the value of news. It's absolutely bizarre, isn't it, if you think about it? You know, where's the free speech? Where's the difference of opinion? The government is going to tell you the value of news. A concept paper leaked to the public outlined a radical re-regulation of social media platforms, including comprehensive control of text, images, and videos, extending to pre-publication censorship. So they will control it. What you will see is a very sanitized version of what is happening, and probably has no relation in many cases to what is happening. But this pre-publication censorship, arbitrary favoritism or preferred media and options, along with sanctions and penalties. You can't forget those. Germany does have a long history of that, doesn't it? German regulators will also require platforms such as X, Facebook, and YouTube to actively promote government-approved news sources while downplaying everything else. Alice in Wonderland. This is nothing more than official censorship and propaganda thinly disguised as fighting misinformation. On with the cape. Now, every year, thousands of Germans are investigated, prosecuted, fined, or raided by heavily armed police units simply for posting opinions online. Oh, mate, what have you got an opinion for? Just get in step with the rest of us. Oh, you want free speech? Jeepers, go and live somewhere else. Now, Germany and state media authorities are completely out of control. You'll do as we tell you to do. Germany's media output must be quite uninteresting. Now, we're going to speak today to Robert Cibis, who's hiding in front of a black cloak this time. Normally he's behind it. He's our editor-in-chief of Oval.media. We're going to talk to him about the media scene in Germany and the trials and tribulations of independent media. Robert is a producer and author of films, documentaries, TV shows, and a book publisher. Robert, thanks for joining us. He's not there. No, he's not here at the moment. What we might do, I wonder where he is. So what I'm going to do is go to here, Robert. There you are. You just popped up cams there, I think. So that's pretty good. Or you just disappeared. Hey, tell me, to bring us up to date about the recent developments in German censorship and activities of state media authorities, because it would seem that there is no such thing as free speech in Germany.
Yes, I mean, you have the situation that there are European predetermined measures implemented all over Europe. So in fact, what we have here is the European Commission has various tools to enforce censorship all over Europe. So what we live in Germany is identical to Italy or France or Spain. These are not the evil Germans per se. This is a system which is similar in all Western countries. it is very complicated and very much hidden because it's not just one law, European law. People think it might be the Digital Services Act, but it's not true. You have a whole slate of institutions and departments and laws which kind of make a clockwork to enforce censorship. And we shouldn't underestimate that there are also economical incentives for censorship on all levels. Some politicians, for instance, in Germany, because there's a new law for some years now, become rich because they can sue the citizens when they insult them somehow. So if I say Mr. Y is a stupid politician, he might sue me and get like a compensation of a couple of €1,000. And as you have big legal firms who do this and do this thousands of times because they go through the internet to find these kind of expressions, then in fact it makes them even more money than their salary as a civil servant. So this is just one aspect to it. And the other aspect, of course, is that you have this deplatforming, but also debanking, which is a clear means of censorship. I had the personal experience that a head of a small bank told me that he was approached by the authority who oversees banking in Germany to stop dealing with our platform, and thus I got deleted my bank account. So I'm just saying, censorship has many layers, and is of course an international effort. And you certainly also are aware of what is happening in the UK. That the police visits for posts. It happened even in Australia, as you know. So it is horrible because it shows two things: that democracy is where we are going away from, and the other thing is that the governments are not in charge because you have the same identical development, really in sync, in lockstep, all over the Western world.
It's incredible. Tell me, how many media authorities do we have in Germany, or have they lost count? We have Robert. He's just gone frozen at the moment, which is always exciting to say the least. Robert, you're back again.
I'm so
Your
sorry.
internet. No, that's okay. Tell me, how many authorities do we have in Germany at the moment?
Germany has a better system than most countries because it is organized by regions. So the law for media makes the regional authority put in charge. However, this is not how it's handled today. Today, all measures seem to be national somehow because it's coordinated. But this is why we have regional broadcasters, which are way more important than the national structures we have. And one of the biggest broadcasters in the world is the regional public broadcaster network, which is all over Germany, and which also in the statutes defines to be independent to the dominating narrative and has the obligation to support minority point of views. Also, narratives which are not in the mainstream. It is written there, and the public broadcasters have been sanctioned 4 times by the highest court in Germany because they didn't respond to that statute. However, what we see today is that law doesn't matter at all anymore, and that the European Commission's initiative are implemented whatever the law says, and the highest court is rather defending the government than putting limits to their actions.
It's quite incredible. But Germany is not alone. If you look at your neighbours, the EU under Queen Ursula von der Leyen, Viking extraordinaire, they have some pretty wild ideas. And if you have any ideas about having a voice, within Europe and also the UK, it's absolutely appalling, isn't it?
It is stressful. I mean, the good thing is that technology is supporting diversity. We can now talk to each other through the internet, and it doesn't cost millions. Just a couple of €1,000, which is very little compared to what it would have cost 20 years ago. So there is an opportunity to have more perspectives than in the past because of these technologies. They are a tool for emancipation. But I have to stress, of course, this is why the authorities are doing everything to control it and to use these technologies to control us. I just want to emphasize we are much more powerful than we might think if we hear all that. Look, I can send USB sticks to many people and they can see the shows and the text. It's the entry level to be a media producer is becoming lower and lower because of digital technology. So we should profit from this and not just complain about what is happening.
I have to say, it makes you wonder where we're heading. But Europe and Germany aren't alone. If you look at Australia, we have one of your ministers over just recently. We support what you're doing with censorship, apparently. That's according to our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. And then you look at the UK, Ofcom, who are on steroids, and they're trying to do all they can. They would love to shut you up too. And then you have in the US, well, we have free speech here. I see that Texas have started now that you have to verify your age to download apps in Texas. Now, Texas, the Lone Star State, the state that fought for your freedom, it seems to be slowly nudging its way to, or edging its way to massive censorship. In Germany, do they now fund? Because, by the way, the US will follow the rest of the world. If you believe Donald Trump, you may believe him 1 minute, but he will change his tune. And then the next minute he'll be somebody else. Look, I'm somebody else. Oh, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. Let's have a fight within yourself. And that's what it seems to be. But that's another story with Donald Trump. Most disappointing, I think. The biggest loser, as one would say. But let's talk about the German government. How do they fund these individual organisations? How do they choose them to be the beneficiary of our love and gratitude?
I think it's much more international than it appears. And this is what is also hidden to German citizens. They think, we have these NGOs which are supported by our national government, which is true. But at the same time, the biggest censorship vectors, NGOs in Germany, are co-funded by international structures, like the oval.media Foundation, who is Pierre Omidyar is one of the co-founders of eBay and thus a rich technocrat from Silicon Valley. He has been the main funder of Das Korrektiv, who was the biggest NGO during the COVID crisis, but also today. And I think more than half of the funding comes from there, and the same structures who funded the Poynter Institute and so on and so forth. So what we have here is a global network. I just give you a second example. There's an NGO advocating, climate protection and new ways of heating homes, and also has been supporting new laws with the Green Ministry of Economy. And this NGO, in fact, has been co-funded by NASA, United States, which is, in a way, a military structure within the U.S. Public budget. So this NASA is funding an NGO which is supporting censorship, but also the dominating narrative of the German government. So just these are two examples where we have globalist Anglo-Saxon structures doing manipulation of the public discourse in Germany. And we could also go to other countries, but you have it on all levels. And this is why I feel like, Mike, we live in the same country. We are in a very similar situation, because being citizens of the formerly called place, which is the first world, we are now somehow...
And Robert is again, he has magnificent internet. We're listening. Let's get rid of Robert. He's gone. But Robert will come back. Trust me. He will come back. He's back again. Robert, you need to pedal harder.
I'm sorry. I can't really. I have very fast internet normally, so I don't understand what is happening.
1 minute
Maybe
you're
it's
next
just
minute
to
the German,
emphasize what I'm saying.
yeah, no, 1 minute you're here, next minute the German authorities have you.
Why?
Talk. So you were saying,
I was just saying that you cannot analyze what is happening in a specific country just from the point of view of that country. Mike and you and I, we live in the same place somehow. We live in the same formerly called first world territory, which is in constant decline. And the censorship is an indication for this, because what is happening here is not in the interest of the people. And this is why they have to censor.
I find it absolutely amazing. Tell me, how do they survive in Germany, the independent broadcasters or journos or alt-media, independent media, whichever you like? How do they survive? I mean, because, and we'll talk about this later in our next piece on this, because people are going to eat, and if they have presented to them a fairly substantial income to broadcast and show favouritism to the current philosophy of government, that would seem to be what is happening in many cases within Germany. Tell me I'm wrong.
It is a mess, because in the alternative media world, I would suspect that 80% of full-time people are in fact working for third parties in a hidden way. So it is really difficult. So the honest people often have a different job and they do media work as a side dish, which is of course not sustainable, because to be good you have to do it all day long and really focus. So I am very suspicious of many people, because I feel like they're sabotaging their own cause. And then if you criticize them, they say you sabotage our cause because we are alternative media and we shouldn't criticize each other. I think it is important to be able to criticize and to be criticized, and we should be proud or self-aware enough that we will be the future of media. So yes, a dispute is necessary, and also if somebody is obviously not doing what he or she is saying she would do, then we should of course criticize it, because we cannot just be against globalists and support technocracy at the same time without a clear explication, for instance.
So tell me, how many would you think, and you can't give me numbers, but percentage-wise, how many wouldn't be on the gravy train?
You mean how many people are not really honest in their criticism?
Well, how many would be honest in their criticism?
I mean, if you look at the important people, the more important the person is, the less probability there is that this person is honest, because I see that third parties are playing an important part in this media game. And so if you have a third party supporting you, you can be more important. And it could be just that the mainstream media is making a hit piece against you, which is of course helpful because it makes you more important in the alternative media. So if a person, for instance, is put into prison because of his advocacy work, I'm thinking of the guy who organized the big demonstrations in Germany, Michael Baalbek, who has been in prison for quite a long time. I'm suspicious of that person, even though he was in prison. It seems absurd in a way, but it makes that person very important. Because he is in prison, there's a lot of media coverage about this person in alt media, but also in alt media like mainstream media. So I think if you just ignore it, if the algorithm is against you, if your Wikipedia profiles are deleted, then there's a high probability you are honest and you're doing a good job. But if there's a big debate about you, if you're screaming against the government, if you try to be radical, this is to make the discourse more radical is one of the means to put a bad light on criticism. So often the more radical persons are in fact controlled opposition.
It's pretty wild. I have to say but it's the way. I mean, Europe's heading that way. Germany seems to be the carrying the beacon of no hope. But if you look around, look at Australia. We're doing all we can to shut you up. I mean, go one step further. I mean, you mentioned that those who are getting all the publicity screaming from the tops of the towers and lungs and whatever are usually doing it on the bequest of some sort of government. But if you don't toe the line, no one's going to hear you. No one's going to read you. And then you got the next problem. Governments are very controlling over social media. And when I put in something in Australia on the Victorian Premier, and I just asked for it was a bit of satire, and Grok would not do it. It said, we're not going to do that because it might be hurtful, hateful, blah, 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 all that sort of crap. And it was just a piece of satire. There's nothing wrong with satire at all. In fact, it enunciates the truth quite slyly in many ways. But I'm thinking, though, if Germany are going this way and Europe is going this way and the rest of the world is following the coattails of the European Parliament and your Parliament and everybody else, then you have social media and YouTube and Rumble, who else is X, Facebook, and a whole bunch of others. You can't believe those numbers at all because they are manipulated. They are meant to show you that if they don't like you, and which could be on the bequest of the government, they're going to show you that you have no one watching. And they're going to do all they can to make sure that all your followers, whether it's on those X, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, they're going to make sure that those followers think that you've fallen off a cliff and gone away. How do you fight that? When, in your case, and Germany is leading the way, carrying this beacon of no hope, you have government absolutely crunching you beyond all belief. You have the surrounding countries crunching you beyond all belief. And then you have your only way of getting your message out. And don't go to Substack. Substack are as slippery as the rest of them. So how do you get your message out? Or do you just roll over, capitulate and say, I need to eat. I have to have a roof over my head. I'll have to follow what government says, be a little nicer, and perhaps one day I'll get a chance to enunciate the real truth.
We live in war times, and there were people dying who didn't even know that they were victims of war. And the media has two big advantages. First, that the ruling classes, the plutocrats, are working against the interest of the general population. So the moment the general population is aware of this, they are quite strong because there are many more people. And the second advantage is that the evolution of technology is in fact an emancipatory aspect to society. We can have more democracy on a social media platform or in the internet in general than we could like 50 years ago. Of course, we have the algorithms. YouTube is doing as if nobody would see your show and so on. This is, of course, very mean and unfair because they, with the infrastructure, they have leverage over the content producers. But you shouldn't forget that, this is a battle against uphill battle for the platforms because there is a risk that the users are aware of this. So there have to be created new free speech platforms to counterbalance this. If not, they would have independent platforms like we have. Oval Media has its own technological infrastructure. We do not rely on any platform at all. No, besides besides partly for the payment, which is of course not good to have, but because we would like to go away from Stripe and PayPal, but for all other aspects we are technically independent. So we just need electricity and the internet to work, which is of course not sure that this will remain working all the time. But the moment the internet is turned off worldwide, in fact it will be liberating, because propaganda will get a big hit and people will start to talk to each other, and it would be not so good for the globalists. So I think it's not clear how this will end and whether this will end at all, because there will always be a friction between the different classes. I think the more the war is obvious, the harder it will be for the perpetrators to steal our money.
You often get a little afraid for your well-being being in Germany, because you're out there, you're on terrible shows like ours where it's just we are the we're the terrible people. We're awful, and we're going to destroy the planet. One of my friends said I was responsible for the deaths of many people when COVID was happening, and he was a broadcaster and hasn't spoken to me since, because apparently I'm complicit to mass murder. And it's like, give me a break, mate. Pieces. Anyway, but are you afraid for yourself?
Yes, from time to time. But I would be afraid for myself if I wouldn't act too. So whatever one does, it's dangerous. If there's a world war, it's very hard to say, look, I want to have a non-dangerous life. I think it's so general. The threat is so general that not to act is very dangerous. At least it can make you ill, but also, if it's imprisoning you, it also takes your life away. I want to have a free life. I want to have a happy life. I want to have an active life, and to protect all this, I just stay free. I stay active, and I know that this is the best way. You cannot comply out of dictatorship.
Before we get into other areas of independent media, and a lot of it's making the rounds on social media, I wonder how much is true. Most of it is, and we'll talk about that in a second. But tell me about the AfD, this political party in Germany. Are they heavily censored still, or have they been shown a bit more leniency, and they've been thrown a piece of bread and maybe dripping to have it on the bread, or are they still being under heavy scrutiny by your government?
It's a very good question. I mean, some of what they say seems so great, and it seems like, oh, if they would be in charge, we would have a better country. And at the same time, you have smearing campaigns against them still running all the time, and it's a huge organization right now. So it's a big political party. It might be the biggest one for the next elections. So it is very interesting to see what is happening. However, if we look at what happened in France with Macron, or in Italy, with Meloni, you have to ask yourself whether this will anyway have a chance to change anything. My impression from history is that you cannot vote your way out of dictatorship. However, I cannot blame that party for now, because they have never been in charge. So I cannot say they are evil or doing bad things or will do good things. I don't know. At the end, what they tell us is not important. What is important is what they do. And it's, if I just listen to what other political parties said in Germany, I would have a much more positive image of them. However, their actions have been horrible. current Chancellor Merz did exactly the opposite of what he promised before the election. So what can I say? I cannot predict how they will act in the future. But for sure, this political party, the AfD, has the same battle than all parties. A big chunk of this party structure is controlled opposition, which means that there are agents working for the government to influence the policies, but also to weaken change, because seemingly all big structures try to protect themselves.
What about in the polls? How are they doing?
I didn't hear you.
How are they doing in the polls at the moment?
Oh, yeah, they're very successful. I think they can have nationwide about 30%, which can correspond to about 40% of the seats in the parliament, because the smaller parties will be thrown out. And it's really interesting, because as it's a huge group of people, many of these members of that political parties are honest people who just want a better Germany. I would even suspect 98% or something are very honest people who want to have a better Germany. So if they would be in charge, there will be for sure a lot of frictions, and I have no idea how this will play out.
I mentioned before about your safety and coming from the government. One guy that's been in the news a bit of late on through the social media rounds from davidahughes.net. We had Michael Ginsberg. We've had Sandy and anyway, people from UK Column have been coming out and have been quite illuminating. The guy's name is one of their investors, Marcel Yankee. Now, I'm surprised at, well, actually not surprised, but I'm interested in that this guy called Marcel Yankee seems to be a great collector of independent media from around the world. I'll have you, and I'll have you. I mean, I can talk about this. This is out in the public domain. I'm not going to say anything nasty about him. But you had dealings with Marcel Yankee with oval.media, and tell us how that turned out.
Oh, it's a very unpleasant story, and what I think is so interesting, I saw the interview with Debbie Evans and Sandy Adams and Michael Ginsberg, and you could think they're talking about personal problems with people, but then after a while you understand, no, that's not the point. The discussion is happening because it might be a change in the editorial line because of an investor coming into the group, which happened at UK Column. And I cannot, of course, know what happened over there, but I'm just saying that the dealing with Marcel Yankee and also other people, I often had the feeling, oh, why don't we get along? What is the problem? Did I do something wrong? Is this personal? Is it just a match which doesn't work or so? And then after some time of reflection and also going through my old emails, seeing how the ping pong played out, in fact, no, I understood there is a system. There's a system of keeping me busy, of draining energy, and at the end destroying projects because either the policies changed, the editorial line has changed. So my experience with Marcel Yankee was extremely unpleasant. I spoke about it in several interviews. I also gave interviews in German language recently about this because I think it is not anything personal. It's not even a business relationship which turned sour. It is, in fact, a structural attack on the free media, which I can observe. And this guy is extremely interesting because he, in fact, is supporting or working together with many, many important alternative media people throughout the world. I think in the Anglo-Saxon world, there are at least 30 or 40 outlets, and in Germany, at least a dozen, probably much, much more. And a lot of people I respect very much, and a lot of people I like to read or to listen to have been supported or in contact by him. So, does it make him a bad or good guy? It depends on how this turns out. I see that most people who worked with them didn't really succeed in making any project. Same, and and as I told in another context, I just give you in one sentence the problem I had. He supported a documentary series financially, which I wanted to produce, and we had a contract which gave me full editorial control. And I said, look, this is a good thing. I'm not risking anything, and if he wants to support the message of our documentary series, we will get along. And in fact, he somehow we went into legal battle about all of these contracts, even though I never feared that I would lose these battles. I, um, I learned that the battle is so expensive that this law offer is in fact very heavy on my shoulders as a producer, because in fact the investment were in high amounts and the legal fees are proportional to the sum you are disputing of. I'm referring to the co-production of the documentary series, which I thought had no risk, but in fact it had a risk, because if you are in a business relationship, there can be a legal battle. It's as simple as this.
It's pretty interesting. The the interviews that, well, not interviews, the stuff that Michael Ginsberg did, I thought it was full of enthusiasm. There were some parts that I knew that is wrong. I was also intrigued with the reply from UK Column, and I didn't know whether I thought that was the right thing to do, because you know, we had TNT Radio and TNT.news, and it stopped. It's public knowledge. It stopped. It stopped because it ran out of money. As simple as that, because the funding stopped. And it was, the investors are allowed to do that. And the correspondence between the investors and myself and Jen probably will remain, at least for at the time being, are going to remain quite not for public display. And because it's not the right thing to do. And you see we had an avalanche of, it was like a tsunami of effluent, a slow moving nuclear bomb. And there were people like Jeremy Nell and Sonia Poulton. There's a few other hangers-on, not hangers-on, but they were good people, but they did weekends, and then we had Abby Roberts and a few others. And they went to town with us. They went to town, followed the same script basically. And with us, they talked about chaos. They wouldn't know there was any chaos. They were 12,000 miles away. The only chaos we had was there was no money. They kept pulling money away from us and trying to flip us up, and we would always come out. So anyway, there were those things. So we could have released all the emails to defend ourselves, and I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do that. But I saw that UK Column did release some very private emails between themselves and the people that were attacking them. And I thought that was a pretty poor show, because it's no one's business. It's between you and them. Simple as that. And it is very poor to be releasing emails, even to make a point. A good friend of ours, Rick Munn, told me once after I put an email out, not an email, a post out on X, and we were attacked by, Jeremy Null attacked us, and he said that we were chaotic and that I removed his panel operator. I mean, panel operator is someone behind the scenes that makes things work. And we moved into another time slot. Simple as that. We weren't attacking Jeremy for that reason, but he went after us. But we didn't release his emails. We didn't. I mean, and we could have. And even when I told him to go crawl under a rock with his cockroach friends. And how dare you say his audience is cockroach? We never said that, but it's what they do. But I think the problem with and it will continue now, because what's happened is we find that UK column have released emails, and the others would find all sorts of dirt. They'll do the same, and at the end, no one wins. And by the way, I've got absolutely nothing against UK column. I think what they do, I wouldn't do it that way, but what they do is, they've been doing it for 20 years. Can't say much more than that. But to get involved in a public stoush and to back yourself up, with these emails, is just very poor show. What's your thoughts?
I think this might be a strategy to have a discussion which is about editorial line and investment policy pulled towards a matter of personal dispute. In fact, it's the discussion is lowered this way towards, like, I don't like you, you don't like me, we didn't agree on this and that. That's not the point. Sometimes it's a means to hide, in fact, an agenda, to make it personal. And I am suspicious that they did this. And I saw that refutation, and I think, damn it, did Mr. Charles Mallet really write to Marcel Janke that he would pay him an economy flight from Hong Kong? This seems so fabricated. As I know, I don't know Charles Mallet, but I know Marcel Janke. He would be very much insulted if I would have written to him, I pay you an economy flight. It's like, you don't pay my flights, would have been his response. He was very angry once when I wanted to offer him rights to a book in Japan, and he said, "Oh, this is insulting that you offer me rights to a book." Maybe it was just a theater thing, and I misunderstood it. But I think it's a strategy to push people out of the debate in a way and make it personal. How would I say it? It is very mean. I lived this with other conflicts, like, the Filmic story in Germany, it's the same thing. He was accused of embezzlement and other things, and then he succeeded in making it a personal story, but she doesn't like me, I don't like her, and through this personal dispute, a lot of people said, look, I don't want to be, it's not my discussion, they are disputing, it's not, there is no right and wrong issue anymore, it's just a dispute. And so I think this is a tool of deviation of attention for me. This is what it is.
It's pretty interesting. Even the what is it called? Rising Tide Foundation. Marcel was part of that, and so what? He's part of it, and he's allowed to be part of it. It's though the influence. What's his name? Matthew. His real name is Matthew Klump, the guy that hosts Rising Tide.
Klump.
Yes. It's and if he wants to change his name, good on him. He can do what he likes. But it's when you start, especially with independent media, because you have a great responsibility, and that is to tell the truth, not my truth or your truth. Tell it as it is, because there is so much of a quagmire of information out there. People do want to know what's happening, and they trust you. So I look at I go back to UK column and the conversations that Debbie and them had about Gemma. Now, all I can say is that when Gemma worked for us, Gemma Cooper, she was 10 out of 10. Couldn't have anyone better. She was absolutely brilliant. She had experience. But I think Gemma was about the only one that had broadcast experience, and I think that's part of the problem that shown up with UK column. They should have taken a leaf out of the conversation that Rick Munn told me. He said, don't reply after that cockroach thing, which I never called his audience a cockroach, never called Jeremy a cockroach. I wouldn't do that publicly, just would not do that at all. So to start enunciating and trying to prove yourself doesn't do much, except it heightens the level of curiosity from others. And so this will keep going. I think it'll keep going. But the problem is, and I know with investors with us, or people who put money into us. And by the way, we had millions put into this company, and because we had, at the end when it stopped, we had 20 million downloads, which was astronomical. And we had someone came in about a year ago now, and they went through all the figures and got back to me just recently and said, you had around 140 million people watching per year, and that went from zero to that. So an upward swing. But when people give you money, if I gave you money and said, Robert, I want to do a thing with you, and we want to do this together, it's unless you have that trust or that experience, it's very hard to give you carte blanche or trust you enough to go and do what you want, because I think I can say something too, I can run that too, I can do that because I'm paying you. You need to do what I ask you to do, because if I don't like what you do, I'm going to take my money off you. Now, that couldn't happen with us, but a UK column, they had a loan, and if they got a loan, it could happen. Now, I'm not saying at all that's happening, but you have to look at their programming. And UK column have got such great history. And some of the presenters, including Patrick Henningsen and Basil Valentine and others, and I can't understand why Gemma's not doing something, because she's great. But if someone is paying you, and you should probably be aware that sometimes the ferryman might call and ask for his money back, or ask for his money to do something. Otherwise, it's all over Red Rover. Now, I'm not saying that will happen, but I do understand, though, that when you have Carl Jar, and by the way, I like Carl Jar. I think he's a pretty decent guy. I don't agree with what he's doing, but it's not his fault. They offer him a gig. And then we have Jeremy Nell. I mean, there's probably a great disappointment, isn't it, to humanity? But anyway, that's just my...
UK Column said themselves that Marcel Janke is financing Carl Jar and Jeremy Nell in an email they wrote to all members, because I was on that email list. I got that email personally. So they openly said, look, without Marcel, we couldn't afford these presenters. So yes, they have their own editorial take, and this take is new to UK Column, and the link to Marcel is admitted. So there is, I don't see any debate about it. And Carl Jar is clearly pro-China, and if you listen to him, I mean, I just say, it's interesting for somebody who gets this anti-China propaganda all day long to have the opposite point of view for a moment, but after a while, you feel it's the same, but the reverse to it, and it's not differentiated. So I'm very critical of Carl Jar for this reason. He seems really like to be a propagandist. I would even suspect him being directly supported by parties in China, which I cannot, of course, prove, as the way he presents the political and economic situation is very much biased in a way which I feel is not really journalistic. Yeah.
But he makes no bones about it, so you employ him at your own. What am I going to do about it? Oh, I'm going to get all upset that they're doing this. No, good on them. I don't think, though, it will work, and there is that's my own opinion. But the way UK column is run, I don't know how it's run. But back to the reply, though, that they made public. I thought it was a really poor show. And I don't think you need to get into a stoush, because what it does, it demeans you. And I was told that many times. I wanted to fly off my handle and get on the keyboards and tell it as it is. And Rick and others gave me magnificent advice. Shut the F up. Don't say a thing. As for just getting off Marcel for a second, because he is an investor. He's helped them out. Good on him. However, You have to wonder, though, no one gives money away for nothing. That's why TNT is not here. It is not here at all, because we would not um, follow anybody else's agenda. We needed to tell it as it was. And that's as simple as that. The investors got every right. There's two of them. They have every right in the world to walk away. What am I going to do about it? Can't do much. And you try and do the best you can. So that's the downside with having an investor. And I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said, "Oh, that's the reason why you failed. Everyone fails." And I said, "We didn't fail. We had huge numbers." He said, "We were just tied up because of people putting money in. They didn't want to put any more money in." And I won't go into the reasons, but simple as that. He said, "Oh, you failed." I said, "No, we didn't fail. We had great numbers. We had the best staff, the absolute best crew God ever made. Absolutely loved them all. I haven't heard from most of them, but they are just, I did all that we could to make sure TNT lasted as long as it could. They are very good people. I'll put that down in record. Some of them haven't heard from since. Hope they're doing well. But as for people paying to run an organisation like UK Column, you just got to be a little bit careful, because one day the ferryman might call and ask for his pound of flesh back. But again, UK Column are doing what they want to do, and I do hope they survive and they get through it. I don't think the Stausch is going to do much if they just probably zip the lip. They're lucky to have an investor, and that's great. And they also have the investors are the public. That's great. But you have to ask, what does the person putting the money in want in return? And hopefully they won't get a retort. Hopefully I won't. But who knows? It might come back to me. It might, we'll see you in court. You've said something terrible. I haven't said a damn thing terrible. I haven't said a thing yet. I will do that one day down the track. And if you look at other media, independent media, how do they eat? They can't. You can't make a whole lot of money from YouTube generally, unless you're a Tucker. I mean, Tucker makes no bones about it. He has a stack of money, and he's got money from probably X, I would imagine, and other advertisers because of his numbers. But most people, most broadcasters, podcasters, media people like us, like you, Robert, if you were to do something, if we were to live on the money that YouTube were to pay us, I mean, we actually we decided to become part of the monetization program. Wait for it. We made last month, because they absolutely butcher our numbers, but we made 6 cents. 6 cents. Now, I was going to go out and buy a drink, but I thought maybe I'll just buy a block of ice because I put in the drink because I can't afford it. But it's so I think you have to ask the question: who pays? Who pays? What do they want? Can you say no? If you say no, you'll end up like we were, and we're doing it tough.
But you're going on, and I'm going on too. I'm right now going back to what I did before, which is producing documentaries and directing them. We will publish tomorrow evening a new documentary about Chancellor Merkel, and to see what role her regency is playing in the global development, and also to see where she's coming from, because she had strong ties to the security apparatus of Eastern Germany before the reunification of the country. Mm-hmm. And I think it'll be very enlightening, and it's fascinating because a lot of information is out there, but it is not talked about, it's not integrated into documentaries. So I just say to myself, we have to scale up. I'm in fact saying, look, instead of making just live shows, I'm sorry, I'm not doing the live shows anymore, and just discussions. I go back to do more and more documentaries currently. But I think there's a back and forth because If you have interesting conversations, you can use part of it for the documentary too. So, but foremost, if you meet people, you learn a lot of things, and if you learn a lot of things, you can make stories out of this. So this is where I gonna go towards. And as I told you, we have our own video server, so we have also our own paywall. And I say, look, if the audience isn't willing to pay for content somehow, or supporting it in any other way, then they will not get it.
Mm.
They will not get then freedom is less important for them than for me. For me, it would be important. I like to pay for content.
Mm. Which is also important, because if you don't have money coming in, you can't have any freedom. You'd
That's
be like
exactly the
behind
point.
the iceberg.
Exactly.
But
Freedom.
it's interesting though, isn't it? How, it used to be when we started off with Asia Pacific Today, and we've got 3 million on one video, and that's another story. But it's there were a few out there, and now everybody's a podcaster, everybody's a broadcaster, everybody's a writer, everybody's a critic. They're all going to save the world, which is part of the problem. No one's going to save the world, only unless you're a large organisation. But it's interesting that if you don't get money in, you will starve. So that's where the pay-per-view part comes into it, and the subscriptions, because you've got to do something. Otherwise, forget about censorship and stuff like that. If you're not making any money, you're not going to hang around for long, because you ain't going to eat or sleep with a roof over your head. So I understand your paywall, and I think it's a great idea, and I think that's the way it's all going to go.
I hope it'll work out. I cannot tell you right now, but it's the only way out, I think. And I, I feel. I mean, it is very tough, because the competition seems to be close to what we are doing, but let's say they have a political agenda, but the agenda is somehow hidden, or it seems like to be in opposition of mainstream. Let's say mainstream is saying China is bad, and then you have the alternative media saying China is good. So it seems to be another point of view, but both, of course, is a delusion. It's not about saying a country is bad or good. It's about criticizing systems and the overall evolution, which is, of course, the multipolar world order, which is about to be implemented right now. And this world order is less free. This new world order, it means a dictatorship for all citizens in the world. And we have to communicate this if we want to hinder this to happen. Because if people are not aware of the problem, we cannot solve it. So this is why I think everybody should continue. Everybody who listens to this conversation should somehow support your work and my work, or other people's work, if they think they are honest and they really are not playing an easy game of good and bad, but try to really go towards the truth. Because if you really are seeking for truth, you have no agenda besides this.
Mm. Well, we are telling the truth. Truly, it's very tough. I'm not going to budge like you. You're not going to budge. You're going to do what is the right thing, not just for Robert Cibis, but for just doing the right thing. And I think it's important that you have that. And it's tough, because if you're hungry, we get nowhere. And I don't mention that lightly, because people have got to, as you get older, got to be able to eat and have a place to sleep in. So you need the money. And look at us, we're rolling around it. We got 6 cents. And thank God they don't do a check for us, because a check would be worth more than the actual amount. But no, I think the independent media, you just got to ask yourself who pays the bills, and keep asking. And there's nothing wrong with asking. But organisations such as UK Column, good on them. Some aren't my favourite there, but so what? I'm just one person. I think they deserve as much success as possible. But in saying so, you also have a responsibility to absolutely tell the truth. And you're in an awful position, not awful position, you're in a position. And hopefully your investors, along with your donations that come in from others, hopefully they're all good. I'm not saying they're not. Robert, we've got to wind it up. I can talk about other areas, but I won't. By the way, Reiner Formig, tell me what you think of him.
I think he's one of these guys you shouldn't trust. He said he's attacking the government, but then he is telling to the audience, "I'm the savior. I will," and he's insinuating that he would do legal actions which will stop the harms the governments are doing throughout the world. But the story he's proposing is very weird, like going through a class action campaign from the United States or Canada or the Maori to help save medium-sized companies in Germany. He is, in fact, a fraud. It is amazing how much support he gets, which is an indication of him having third parties supporting him. And I very much like the articles David A. Hughes wrote about him because he, in my opinion, raises the right questions. I know him quite well because I was responsible with my company oval.media for the streaming of the Corona Investigative Committee. And it was, it was a big success because we had a large audience. And the important part with this committee was that there were experts from all over the world talking freely and giving an alternative point of view to what the government proposed. And this is why this has been valuable. However, the moderators, and especially Rainer Füllmich, who pushed himself very much into the foreground, used this and in some way for many, medium class Germans, he was a bit too bully or too not serious as a lawyer. So this created a distance to the committee, but also he promised things, and then with this dispute about money, there was a demoralization effect. People were disappointed about the whole situation. So the pro-Reiner people or the anti-Reiner people, both of them were disappointed and lost energy. He sucked a lot of attention into his own person, public appearances, but didn't do anything, practically speaking, as a lawyer. So I think he is a fake. I think he is paid by third parties, maybe by a government or not. There's a German author who's called Uwe Eichner. He proposed the theory that he in fact works with the Secret Service of Scientology, because all people supporting him, or many people supporting him right now after he is in prison, had Scientology links. And in 1999 there was a documentary also insinuating that he works for Scientology, as he were attacking companies who wouldn't collaborate with Scientology publicly, telling that these companies are working with Scientology. That is a very typical secret agent strategy. You would, as a secret agent, infiltrate the opposition groups and then tell this and that guy are in fact controlled opposition. So you would in fact propose the narrative which in fact you are standing for to people who are honest, to discredit them, and to also, if then the other person says, look, you are controlled opposition, it's not me, then he's the second person saying the same thing, which makes it sound less credible. You will not believe it anymore, because you would rather believe what you hear for the first time than what you hear for the second time.
It's pretty interesting.
It has been the Stasi manual, how to destroy oppositions group, to make this allegations and harm people. It's in fact, honestly, if I read UK columns saying that the allegations against them are in fact linked to Secret Service from Israel with not giving any evidence for it. Anyway, it reminds me of this, but I cannot be, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's the same way of saying things, you know.
I mean, and that's some of the things they accuse. I mean, it's got, anyway, it got quite puerile, and I think I understand though why they jump to that particular stance, but it's not the right way to do it. And what do they say? With the smoke, there's fire. But I'm not going to go down that path. None of my business, and no one wants to hear me criticise another media outlet. I need to get my shit together first before I do that. And it's very tough, very tough. So good luck to UK Column. Good luck to all those involved in UK Column, and to the ex-presenters that used to work with us, ex-colleagues and friends. Miss you all. But Robert, you and I should do more of these, I think, just conversations. And we need to fix up the audio. I mean, you can hear all sorts of noises. And we're with this group. I mean, truly, they upgraded the system 3 weeks ago. And ever since then, I feel like I'm on a faraway planet called Uranus.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry. We should, we should test it next time. I cannot explain it for the moment why there are these issues.
No, it could be other things. I mean, I'm going to get too paranoid. What? No, nothing like that at all. Robert Cibis, thank you so much for your time. If somebody wants to watch your next documentary, tell us how to go there.
So the German version is available in 2 days on our platform oval.media. The English version will be available in about 5 days or so. You can choose the language on our website in the corner on the right. So our website has 5 languages, including English, German, and French, Spanish, Italian.
Fantastic. Can't wait. We'll be one of your first subscribers. Robert, thank you very much. Geez, you say I'm rich. I have 6 cents. Thank you to YouTube. Have a great night or great day, Robert. This has been The World Today. Just a little bit different. We're going to do it sometimes just a bit differently. Have the microphone. See, sounds better than the little lav mic, and have more of just a one-on-one conversation and chew the fat, so to speak, and try and not get into trouble. Tomorrow we have on the Protagonists, a very dear friend of ours, James Freeman, is back, and we're talking about Nigel Farage. I always think he's a celebrity game show host in waiting, and I still haven't changed my mind on that. So him and I think Catherine Blakelock, and we have one other person, I've forgotten the name, so my apologies, not discounting your importance to it, but a very good panel tomorrow on the Protagonist, kicking off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in Australia, in the UK 8 a.m, and in the US and New York it's at 3 a.m, I think about midnight in Los Angeles. So until tomorrow, have a great day, great evening, great night, whatever. I hope you can do more than I can. I can afford the ice block, but I can't afford the stuff that goes with it, that lovely stuff. They call it whiskey anyway. I'll have to wait. And hello to Charlotte. She thinks I drink too much whiskey. Anyway, who cares what Charlotte thinks? Have a great one. This has been The World Today.